Hello and welcome to Real Chat with Kat, the podcast dedicated to igniting your entrepreneurial spirit and empowering you to conquer new horizons. In this podcast, we chat with inspiring entrepreneurs on their journey to success through some amazingly insightful and expansive conversations. These episodes thrive on thought-provoking chats where our guests fearlessly explore their path to success, sharing their experiences, failures, and triumphs. No topic is off limits as we deep dive into the talked about and not so talked about pieces it takes to build a business, overcome limiting beliefs, deal with personal struggles, and everything in between that shapes our lives and our businesses. I'm your host, Kat Polsinelli, creator and founder at The Lotus Effect, where we believe that success is not just about strategies and tactics, it's about cultivating a powerful mindset and creating customized business operations that align with you and your true purpose. Whether it's mastering time management, improving productivity, enhancing leadership skills, or simply fostering a growth-oriented mindset, we'll provide you with the tools and strategies to flourish in both your business and personal life. I'm so excited to have you join us today in this episode, so get ready to feel empowered and inspired as we learn together and from one another on how to rise above challenges, break through limitations, and unlock our full potential. Let's dive in. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me today on this episode of Real Chat with Kat. I am so excited to have you join us here today. I have a phenomenal guest. I am so excited to bring him to you guys. We have had a heck of a conversation. I love what it is that he's doing. So I'm honored to be able to blast you out to my audience. So Reef, thank you so much for being a part of the podcast today.
Thank you for having me, Kat. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm so excited to dive right in. So while we jump right into the podcast, let's go ahead and get a couple things answered then. So please tell the audience who you are, what it is that you do, and what got you into that space.
Yeah, my name is Reef Colman. I'm the founder and CEO of WeAssist.io. We do international headhunting. What really got me into this space was wanting to start an educational platform to help people. Education has helped me so much with ongoing learning, emotional intelligence, agree and disagree, having hard conversations, emotional regulation, these types of topics that I decided to start some sort of way of teaching others. However, in that, I realized that nobody really goes on a teaching platform who wants that. And Google and Facebook really capture a lot of our attention and energy, and Instagram. So you can't really fight or battle those. So I decided to create an HR and compliance platform with payroll attached to it and create a bonus structure attached to an educational piece where people learn every week. And that's how I started WeAssist. Yeah.
Which I think is super cool. And I love the fact that you took something that you were passionate about, something that you were energized about, and then noticed that okay, well, nobody is really reacting to this way and it's not going this way. So we'll just create our own platform. We'll just go a completely different direction and make it all ourselves.
Yeah, I rarely think about that, but that is true. I have a lot of people kind of bring up the reflection point that, Reef, you've done this in life, and I kind of don't give myself the credit for that. And I just feel day to day that I'm just one step after the other. I think that's just kind of what happens when you're, playing the chess game of life. You just what's the next move? Rarely do you ever get to look back and go, wow, that's a cool chessboard, So yeah, I guess there was a need there, and I felt it also came from people trying to poach my own players. I had done such a good job recruiting for my own company that people were like, I want that guy, I want this guy, I want that person. And I thought, holy cow, quit trying to steal my players. So instead of getting agitated, I realized, I think what people are really looking for is to hire. Let me see if I can fulfill that for them. When I started fulfilling that for people is when my life changed.
I love that. And to anybody that's out there that isn't familiar with a headhunter, how would you break that down? Me, I'm going to say that it's, virtual assistants, but it's also executive assistants and
Mm,
you fill all kinds of spaces. So for those that aren't
yeah.
really familiar with that term, how would you describe it as far as what your company helps with?
Yeah, great question. You know, we do conscious hiring. So we're very much about what it looks like to do hiring internationally. Uh, VA and is a term. A virtual assistant is a role under outsourced professional or offshore talent. So offshore talent or outsourced professional is the over-encompassing umbrella. Um, then underneath that falls every other position, every other role, like executive assistant, personal assistant, uh, bookkeeper, accountant, all those others. It kind of, it's interesting for people to hear for the first time that, um, there's CEOs, CTOs, CFOs, COOs offshore. There's companies like Nike and Toyota, these other large corporations. So you can find high level talent around the world. What we do is we just specifically go find that talent. What we're trying to get around or away from is these puppy mills that are kind of ran like outsourced professional companies, where they're
Mm-hmm.
just throwing a body at you, and if it sticks, it sticks. So what? We really want to be very precise on who we're hiring and get as exact and specific as we can for that hire. So yeah, we've done 68 different roles, all the way from data entry to director of operations, CMO, chief marketing officer, CFO, uh, and everything in between. So yeah, we're here to serve people and help them find the right fit. I'm an overglorified matchmaker. That's all I am. That's really truly all that I am. Our motto is your lifelong recruitment partner. And that's, I'm a very relational person. I'm a lifelong committal type person too. So that's like, okay, this is what we are, like let's be here together for a very long journey. And I love that. Yeah.
And I love that so much. And you and I talked about this prior too, as well, that, like I've spoken to several other companies that offer offshore help in different variants. However, the way that you go about it is so unique and so different and so personable compared to other companies. And that was one of the things that I really love, which is one of the reasons why, to everyone out there listening, why I wanted Reef on this podcast so much as well, is because there are a lot of entrepreneurs that are looking for that type of help. We are trying to build a business, but we really need good people. And sometimes going on to like Fiverr and Upwork and all that becomes more of a headache than what it's worth.
Oh,
And so
yeah.
having someone that you can trust is a really, really big thing to a lot of people. But the other side of it is having someone that not only is there for the client who is needing to hire someone, but I also love the fact that how involved and how much community you create for those that you are putting in these positions to work with your clients. And I'd love for you to share that as well, because this is so important. And I think that to me, this is a newer model of the way people should do business and build business. And so I want more people to I want more people to hear about this. I want more people to understand that it doesn't have to be this, dog eat dog world and it's me against you. Like you really can create this beautiful collaborative relationship space with both your clients and the other side, and make sure everybody is working together harmoniously while being that wonderful middle person
Thank you.
that makes sure that continues.
Yeah, thank you for that. I'll start by saying, conscious capitalism is something that I believe in. And a term that I coined was equally advantageous opportunity or equally advantageous triangle. You can create relationships that are equally advantageous for all parties, and I believe in those, and they're a bit harder to create and cultivate. But once you do cultivate one, it creates nice synergy and long-lasting partnership because you want to work with that person ongoing on repeat. Not so transactional. But conscious capitalism, I believe you should take what you need and leave the rest. After $100,000 a month take home, you really don't need much more money. There's what else would you need? Like after taxes, $1 million take home. That's a nice salary. That's a great
Mm-hmm.
amount of money to do wonderful things. Let alone like a 20,000 dollars a month, you're really living a good life. You have most of your needs met. Um, so on the U.S. side, as like a business owner, and people, because I think this is really geared towards the ownership side, right? People that own businesses. Um, Having a certain benchmark and saying, hey, here I'm good, like, do I really need more than that? And then how do you diversify and help them? So I really built my business around how can I get to what's comfortable for me, but also give out to the people around me. Um, and in doing so, I think conscious capitalism also allows you to be someone who sees the world for not just what it's going to be today or getting today's resources, like say I need to make 50,000 chessboards and sell it. But what are the implications for the next 2, 5, or 10 generations? Thinking that way creates a culture of how do you hire and source in an ethical way that creates long-term success. And we have to define success, I guess, in that regard. To define success to me, success is having better future next generation that has further opportunity than we've had in our generation. I mean, we had 100 years ago, we just created the engine. We were having the Industrial Revolution. We were just having issues with World War One. We're very like our species is in the lapse of 200 to 400 years it has hyper evolved at a very rapid rate. So if we look at that as a framework, we see how fast society has evolved. We have to think about what each generation has left us. The combustion engine, processing systems. Maybe one of our biggest gifts, or just the previous one behind us, is the cell phone. Like we can literally view a human being from around the world through this platform.
Yeah.
Like that's a huge undertaking. To think that you can see another person's face in another country just by clicking on a button is phenomenal. Hyper communicating and connecting our entire species. So I think when we look at things in that regard, and we start to see how big the gifts are that each generation has left us, we're in a generation of being very conscious. And I believe that we as business owners all have a responsibility for what the next generation is gonna endow. Is endow the right word I'm looking for here? What the next generation is going to essentially get from us, what we're leaving the next generation. And we really have to be conscious of that, because it's going to be not just them, but the generation after them want to beyond that and beyond that. So I think it's a huge responsibility for business owners to be very cognitive and conscious on how they're doing business and how they're operating and what their footprint is and what they're going to be doing for the next generation. It's us. It's us against us here on this planet, and it's us working with us on this planet. So if we figure out how to work together, we'll probably make a really good future. If not, then we're bound to repeat our mistakes, period.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And I love that a lot more people that I am seeing, that I am speaking to, are coming from the same standpoint as well, right? Like, what can we do that can be different? What is the legacy that we want to leave? What are the improvements that we want to do so people can continue improving on it instead of us doing the same cycles and the same crap that we've been doing year after year after year? Like, at some point, you have to want to break that cycle. And so it's people like you that I think are making such a tremendous difference in the lives of so many people. I mean, for you, not only are you making a difference in the people that you do business with, because you're bringing them sustainable people that are going to want to stay with their company, but you're also helping these other people that you're hiring out that are looking for something better, that are looking for things that are more stable, that are hoping to have a very conducive environment, a very fulfilling environment. And I think that it's so important, especially as entrepreneurs, for us to provide that to the people that we are around, right? Even when I hired my admin, it was very important to me to make sure that she felt like she was being taken care of. It was very important for me to make sure like she knew that she could come to me if she didn't understand, or if she had a problem, or if she didn't like the way I was doing things. I wanted to create that open environment where, like, yes, I may be the leader of my business, and two heads are better than one, right? So like, what ideas might you have? If you're in my systems more than I am, what suggestions do you have that I haven't noticed? I think that having space like that to just be open, opens so many doors to longer lasting relationships.
Yeah, that's, it is really a two-prong approach, because I have two masters. I have to serve a client and I have to serve an outsourced professional. I get to. A client, I'm promising them a great outsourced professional, honest, good, hardworking, etc. So an outsourced professional, I'm promising them a good, honest client that's going to take care of them, be good, hold good space for growth, etc. So it really is matchmaking at a high level. How do I pair these two people to make sure that they work really well together? And then create the ecosystem for safety. What does good look like? What does great look like? What does poor look like? What are the expectations? What should each person be thinking to have? Or what does a day in the life look like? A lot of people that hire for the first time, they don't know what that looks like. So we create that framework for them. Give them the nudge. Hey, this is kind of a red flag sign. Hey, these are green flags. It's rock and roll. And that's incredibly helpful. Along with, like you said, communication. Like what does proper communication look like? Oftentimes, outsourced professionals have been commoditized and have been mistreated. So for them, they're afraid to speak up because they're afraid that someone's going to just say you're fired for them just giving a suggestion. So really being open to how are you as a leader? There's different leadership styles. Everyone's a different type of leader. So really finding that mold. What we specialize in is when we hire someone, finding a persona. And I shouldn't give out so much of a secret box. We find a persona that matches the culture of that owner, leader, or manager. So we really want to find out if that person is the right fit. And we do that by checking out if, for example, yourself, you probably wouldn't do very good with a quiet person that didn't talk at all and was very introverted and in a shell. You need someone who's going to be more communicative with you, expressive. They're going to celebrate with you on wins and they're going to pull back when necessary. Finding that kind of a person is important. So finding that cultural fit is what makes good long-term relationships. So we put a lot of attention in the pre-hire. We are really putting together two personas, two masters. What do they each need? What are both their wants? Are we matching them together? And if there's alignment there, then it's a green light the whole way through. And then on top of that, creating a great culture behind education and prizes. And we do a raffle every 60 days. I do a Christmas bonus, anniversary bonus, birthday bonus, 13-month salary bonus. They get benefits, healthcare, family healthcare, dental, vision, mental. Then on the other side, the client is unique because we tell the client what's important to the outsourced professional. We say, hey, hi, how are you in America? Second question is, what do you do for a living? In other countries, the first question is, hey, hi, how are you? Second question is, how's your mom? How's your dad? What do you have going on? So those cultural differences make a big difference. Or July 4th is our Independence Day. For them, it's June 12th. Like what are the big dates that they have that matter? For them, the Holy Week, 3 days, you give that off and they'll work for you very well because that's a big holiday in their home country. Likewise, Christmas, what are the dates that really matter to people across the world that if you translate it, it'll go way further. Which you could be a random Tuesday, it could be like, hey, sure, take that day off, who cares, but the long-term return on effort, return on investment for that, the return on energy is going to be high because they're going to remember that they were able to spend time with their family, which to them matters more than an extra $50 or $100 bonus, So it's finding what matters to each person and communicating that to the client and saying, hey, this is what matters. So really creating a good relationship, giving them a PTO policy. Clients freak out and they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that you could give a PTO policy to somebody. It's like, yeah, you should give someone a pay time off policy no matter who they are. Here you are. So giving them the bare minimum has been very helpful, and showing, hey, here's where you could start from. Most clients have a better PTO policy that we adopt anyway, but it's a big starting point. And that's what I have to say on that subject. I think I've overcovered it. Yeah.
No, I love it though, because it brings up so many points. And one of the questions that I was going to ask you anyway, that I'd love for you to elaborate on is, what are some of the, not necessarily mistakes, but the failures that you see with those that are wanting to hire someone? What are the things that you suggest that they have in place or that they are aware of when they're thinking of bringing someone into their company? Obviously, culture is one of them, being aware of the type of person that you want to work for you and being aware of what culturally is important to them. But what are some of the other things that you see that, if you could shake people, it could be like, you should all be doing this before you hire someone?
Yeah, get very clear on what your needs are. I think a lot of people will hire someone and then through that process try to figure out what the needs are instead of figure out what your needs are exactly before you jump into hiring. Understand, you know, it's a good way to describe it. Let's go on a road trip. You know, we're gonna drive to where? Well, let's just start driving on this highway and see what happens. You know, that would probably not. It would yield you an adventure, depending on what your end result is. But I don't think it would yield you the results that you're looking for specifically. So I think it's important to take a step back and look and say, where are we driving to? What do we need for that journey? Like, what's really necessary? And then executing on that plan, I think is where a lot of people probably drop the ball on, is actually thinking, hey, I need somebody, and if I do need somebody, how to get that person. Another or what that person's needs are. Another one is, I would say, people misjudging outsourced professionals is just like data entry, not realizing that they have a lot more ability. That I get faced with all the time. The question that you can't trust another human race is racist. It's not a racial thing. It's a people thing. You'll find good and bad people no matter where you go.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, people are willing to say, you can't trust Filipinos, and you go, that's a very weighted thing to say. You would never say that about a black person. You wouldn't say, you can't trust black people. You'd be like, you shouldn't say that, buddy. That's actually gonna get you into some hot water. You just wouldn't do that. But people are okay doing it with other races. It's very interesting, very dismissive. So I'd say getting very clear on what your needs are and what your wants are, and then expanding the mind to like how broad the outsourcing world is, and then not judging by a race, but by people are people, and trying to find that person. Finding the wrong person actually says more about you than it says about the person. The person's going to lie and cheat no matter what. It's your picker. How are you picking that person? You're the end maker, right? You made that decision. As an entrepreneur, you have to be in radical personal responsibility. I made the choice to bring that person on. Where did I not see the red flag? What could I have done differently to hire better? Like, if you're not asking yourself those questions, you're just pointing the finger outward. You're like, they came and they took advantage of my company. Then that's what your company is going to be, just a giant victim script, And that's just not. You have to take responsibility and find out where you could have been better, or hire someone to do it for you, like us, so that you can't. If you don't know how to do it. I believe in buy nice or buy twice. I just did an $18,000 program. I'm about to do another $25,000 course that's going to help us in another niche of our business. Like, it's literally figuring out these specialists that are one-on-one practitioners or private that sit with you and go, this is what you need. Let's talk about it. Okay, awesome. You're buying back time. You're buying back vital brain power, Buy nice or buy twice.
Yeah, definitely. And I love that, you talk about having this radical responsibility, because you're right. And this is across the board, right? Where you have to choose, either you are going to be the one to own the things that happen regardless, or you point the fingers at everybody else, which comes back to, that victimhood mentality, which a lot of people tend to have. And you can't have that in the entrepreneurial world. I mean, you really shouldn't have it at all, but in the entrepreneurial space, it's really hard to get your business to grow if you're constantly pointing fingers at other people. But you said something about, being aware of those red flags when you are looking to hire. What would you consider a red flag to someone if they're looking to hire someone, something to pay attention to?
Yeah, a good test, if you want a really good test, is efficacy. One thing that you can do is you can tell somebody you're going to test them real quick. Hey, I'm going to send you something. It's going to be an hour long or 2 hours long. It could be anything. Maybe I need you to do a quick demo, a quick Instagram post. Here's some pictures. Can you send it back to me? Cool. Get their Venmo or PayPal and pay them $10, $20, whatever it is for the hour. Here you go. Might be $60 for 3 people, might be $80, $100 for 4 people, 5 people, whatever it comes down to. Doesn't matter. You send a blank email that says, here are the instructions, and send out a blank email to that person. The people that respond back after getting paid for their hours work with taste, right? With quickness, and say, hey, this email's blank. What's the project? Those are people of high ethics. And you'd be amazed at how many people do not respond back. And they just kind of go, oh, yeah.
Wow. I haven't thought of that. That's interesting. I guess it's a really
Yeah,
great way to figure out real quick whether it's worth it or not.
pay to play. $20 to find out if you're honest or not. I'd pay 100.
Yeah, no, that's very true. I agree with that one. I know one of the things that I did when I was looking to hire was, and I actually stole it from somebody else that did it was, when I was writing out what I was looking for in somebody, I put kind of in the center of it that they needed to start their email with a specific color. And I just kind of put it in there because for me, I'm looking for somebody that's very detail oriented and is paying attention to that. Well, if I get your email and that isn't there at the top, and that means you read my email and went ahead and applied for the job and you didn't read through it. So that lets me know that you're not the kind of person that I'm looking to hire because I am the person that will read through the whole thing, make sure I've got all the instructions, and then turn around and do it. So, I love that. That's a really interesting piece to be aware of. And I think that's the biggest thing that people worry about too is being able to trust someone and being able to hand parts of their business over, even if it is something super small. I mean, ultimately, right, you're giving somebody access to your passwords and things like that. Like that makes a lot of people freak out when they think about that because there's so many scams.
You should never hand over your passwords to everybody. If I can interject there,
Yeah.
there's a software called LastPass that you should utilize. Everyone should utilize for password locker. Never hand your passwords to a person, no matter who they are, family, friend. Why? Because you never know if they have a backdoor or not. So your mom may not be wanting to hurt you or be malicious, but she may click on something silly on Facebook that she's not aware of, and that'll go in. So sharing a password was my sixth lesson I learned from my sixth hire. They locked me out of all my software and held me ransom, and I had to pay them in order to get back into my website, email, and everything. So with that being said, I learned to use LastPass, and I tell that to everyone: use LastPass or 1Password, wherever these are, so you can send an email out, and then you can actually put that person's name in. And I'd be like, Kat, okay, Kat has 30 accounts with me, exit, and then cut off the connection of accounts. Why? Because you and I, if we work together for 3 to 4 years, you're not going to remember all the accounts again after 3 to 4 years. You're going to be like, do you have access to my Facebook or Instagram, Twitter? Like, that's crazy, But if you have it somewhere in a locker, then you can just say, okay, release access to all these at once. Big point though for safety. Digital safety is important.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for bringing that up because you're right. And all of my stuff went through. I ended up using Bitwarden, but I know LastPass is a really big one. 1Pass is another one. Like there's tons of them out there. But I agree with you. And you're so right in regards to friends and family as well, just for the simple fact that they may not be as safe as you think that they should be kind of a scenario. So thank you for bringing that up. What do you feel like in regards to long-term relationships in business is one of the key pieces to keeping the employee happy and the business happy?
Communication and honesty.
Ooh.
And that goes on both sides. Communication and honesty being not only just communicating to someone, but also allowing for a space of communication, because it's not just about someone communicating, but it's also creating that safe space to communicate. And that is a huge gift, that safe space of I can share openly who I am, what I need, and what my needs are is crucial. Not everyone has that. And in business, or any relationship, that's necessary, but in business specifically, because if your employee or your team member is scared to bring something up to you, that says more about you than it says your team member, Have you curated that safe space for them to be able to open up and share with you openly? What are you doing to create that space of safety and openness? And I'd say honesty, integrity is high. The moment you break trust, it's hard to rework trust. It's doable. You can rebuild trust, but it is a long process uphill. A lot of
Yeah.
pitfalls, question asking, you're more concerned, thinking that there's a lie going on, all that good stuff.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I definitely think that communication and honesty are definitely at the top, and integrity. And I think that that kind of wraps into both of them. And I think that that means for me, right, that if those are the two things that you want to lean on, it also means that you have to learn how to emotionally grow yourself, right? Because anyone
Oh
can
yeah.
say, well, we have communication. Well, you may have communication on one side, but how is that communication on the other side? And it goes back to what you were saying,
Right.
right? Like who are you as a person if you have someone that can't come to you? But I think that a lot of us confuse that because they're like, well, we do. I ask them how they feel and I ask them, what do you think about this project? But there's a difference between like just asking questions and hoping they will answer you versus that comfortable space to be able to feel like that they're actually being seen, that they're actually being heard, that maybe you notice that something that they said was actually better than what you were saying. And are you okay with that? Can your ego handle that? Because that makes a huge difference in the way that communication is led. Communication with ego doesn't go as far as open communication.
Oh, yeah, I've had a huge, I did a program with Busy Gold. She's an amazing practitioner. $10,000 would just change your life with her, for a month private. And every day, just going into ego death and kind of putting down the ego and emotional regulation and repatterning. And I really found out a lot about not just ego, but how tight the scripts are in your head to keep that ego alive, like
Oh,
self-preservation
yeah.
of the ego. Uh, so it's been a fascinating walk and journey to say that open communication is different from just communication. I agree with you. Open communication is, do you feel safe in just opening your heart and mind into what the space can hold, and is it a space where that can be held? Are you going to be judged? Are you going to be looked at? What's going to happen in this space that's here's an energy, it's being put up. And, most often people, get into a very judgmental, crucial space rather than hey, let's grab hands and explore this together, explore the heart. Even
Yeah.
in business, you're being vulnerable. You spend a lot of time in business, 8 hours a day. Not many things you do for 8 hours a day in your life straight, like
Yeah.
that is a big deal. So if someone's opening up to you in business, it's really, hey, let's hold hands here and explore whatever that is that's on your heart, on your mind, that you're experiencing. You're an experiential being just like I am. And a business owner, I'm trying to figure this out through my experience. I want to know from your perspective, your lens, where you sit, what does your heart say about this experience? Because it might involve the experience of other people or the company or whatever that might look like. So creating that safe space is incredibly important to say, hey, what can you see from there? Um, and discernment always, some people come with their baggage of, hard boulevards, so it might be one singular perspective that may not be 100% correct, but it could lead you somewhere, So
Yeah.
I think it's all good data. Just being open to those kind of conversations, I think is key, and creating that safe space for that. I making sure a person feels heard and understood, even if it's not 100% valid into what it is, like that is, or you don't feel like it hits the mark exactly, So being
Hmm.
open to what does it mean from you? Curiosity, being in wonderment. It's not just about your perspective. What does it mean for you and where you're sitting, what you see? How does that affect you? How does that hit you? What are you experiencing? I think that's the key to success. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And I love that you said the word curiosity because that's something that I talk about a lot, that I lead with. And I think that for me personally made a really big difference in my own life with the way that I communicate with my kids, how I communicate with my spouse, how I changed the way that I ran my business, was learning that everybody has their own perspective and everybody has their own demons that they're fighting that we are never aware of. So how can you ask questions? How can you generally like really get curious from a space of like, I really just want to understand. And that is in itself, I feel like, is how you start to learn one, all the different ways that people are going through things, how they interpret those things, how it affects their life, but also it gives you an understanding of how you can then better do the way that you're doing things, whether it is communication or the way that you judge people or the way that you open up or don't open up to people. Like leading with that curiosity to me makes such a difference. And like I said, it's made such a difference in my life over the last several years. And the communication with my teenagers has blossomed tremendously because it isn't discernment. It isn't a question of why did you do this? It's not a looking down, a judgment on someone. It's like, no, I want to understand, because your brain is not at the same place that my brain is at. Your perspective is different than what mine is, right? Like, how are you seeing this? And can I help you see what I'm seeing? Or do I accept what you saw and say, okay, that makes total sense from your perspective, and just kind of let it be? There's a lot more of a neutral zone that I think we forget that we can land in, because we
Yeah.
are taught in a society to be right or wrong, left or right, and not realizing that
Polarized.
there's middle ground.
Very polarizing. And I think it's kind of part of the human species. It's kind of like a condition of our trait. We have to really rework that within self, in a way that's healthy, with good core values that also create like a good North Star. So it's a tricky walk and dance at all times. But there's definitely a piece that has people go extreme. You're either right or wrong, and that's not what. That's a weird black and white way to live life. There's so many colors and gradients and shades of, like, how beautiful. Why not live in the shades? The truth is always somewhere in the middle. I think is the quote that I live by now, and that's been super helpful.
I love that. Well, Reef, I can't thank you enough for being a part of the podcast. As we come to an end, you are so welcome. One thing that I always ask all of my guests is, do you happen to have a quote or a piece of advice you would like to leave the audience with?
Until further data, suspend all judgment.
Ooh, good one. I like that.
I think that's quotes to live by.
I think that's something that we all need to remember, and more of us need to live by.
Agreed.
I love that. Well, thank you again. Please do us a favor then and tell everybody, how can they find you? How can they connect with you? How can they be in your world?
Yeah, my handle is Reef Colman. Reef like the coral reef. Colman like the camping gear, but without the E. That is everywhere. So Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, X, Facebook, all these things, they're all there.
Yeah, definitely. And if they're wanting more information about your company, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you or get information about the company?
I'll have Kate send you a splash page. I think that'll work well.
Nice.
That way you can go ahead and have all of that information at the end there. Kate, can you do me a favor? Can you send Kat a splash page for the end of the podcast with all my information on it, email, Instagram, and your email as well, so we'll get in contact with us? Appreciate you. That's the power of having an executive assistant. I have a whole team.
Just like that.
Voice memos, literally the term spoken into reality, spoken into existence.
Voice memos are the thing. Well, of course, we'll have all that information in the show notes for everybody. So, Reef, again, thank you so much for everything that you do. I love how you work with your people offshores. I love what you're bringing to the world. I think that more of us need to be a part of that. So thank you so much for sharing your wisdom today on the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Kat. I'm humbled. You have a beautiful day.
You are so welcome. To everybody else that's out there, I hope you got some wonderful takeaways and was really paying attention. Please be sure to check Reef out and his company. He has some amazing things to be able to offer people. And don't forget, until next time, do one thing positive for someone each and every day and see the difference that it makes in your life. So until next time, have a fantastic day. Hello again, and thank you so much for being a part of the podcast today. If you enjoyed this episode and it brought tons of value, we ask that you please share, like, and subscribe. Your support means the world to us and helps us to reach even more inspiring entrepreneurs who can benefit from these powerful conversations. If you haven't already, be sure to leave a review on your favorite podcast platform, as this feedback is an amazing gift that fuels our growth and helps us to continually improve this podcast. Looking for an extra dose of inspiration and empowerment? Then be sure to connect with me on social media. You can find me at The Lotus Effect, where I share valuable resources and tips while sharing my own journey of being an entrepreneur. And if you're interested in learning more about my coaching programs and services, be sure to check out my website at the-lotus-effect.com. Once again, thank you so much for being a part of Real Chat with Kat. Your presence and support makes all the difference. Remember, whether you find yourself in the depths of the mud or on the path of growth, we all have a unique journey. And just like the lotus, some of us start in the dirtiest of mud, yet as we rise and grow, we blossom into something beautiful, unique, and truly one of a kind. To all of my visionaries out there, keep rising and growing as you create your own Lotus Effect.